You're listening to episode number 69 of the Keto Diet Podcast. Today we're chatting about the mistakes that people make on keto, unnecessary fear of protein and gluconeogenesis on keto, no correlation of high ketones to better results on keto, and so much more. So stay tuned. Hey, I'm Leanne from healthfulpursuit.com, and this is the Keto Diet Podcast. Keto is a low-carb, high-fat diet where we're switching from a sugar-burning state to becoming fat-burning machines. Starting keto and maintaining it long-term can be quite a challenge if you don't feel supported. My 60-day program, the Keto Bundle, provides you with clear, step-by-step how-to on successfully adapting to a ketogenic diet, avoiding common ketogenic struggles, and healing your body completely and fully with a ketogenic diet. Go to healthfulpursuit.com/bundle and use the coupon code podcast, all in caps, no spaces, to get 10% off your order, exclusive for podcast listeners only. Now, let's get this party started. Hey guys, happy Sunday. The show notes and full transcript for today's episode can be found at healthfulpursuit.com/podcast/E69, and the transcript is added to the post about 3 to 5 days following the initial air date of this episode. And let's hear from one of our awesome partners. I love being Canadian, the home of the true north, strong and free, but gosh, am I jealous that y'all in the US get access to Thrive Market. For all of my pals south of the border, my friends at Thrive Market are offering you $20 off your first 3 boxes of groceries, plus free shipping and a 30-day free trial. That's a total of $60 in savings, equivalent of over 3 tubs of collagen or over 4 free pounds of cacao butter, or get this, a half year's supply of free digestive enzymes, all for switching to Thrive Market for your online grocery needs. So on top of their everyday wholesale prices, the extra $60 off your first 3 orders plus free shipping, you're going to transform a regular $100 grocery run into an $80 Thrive Market order for 3 months in a row for the same amount of things. Go to thrivemarket.com/keto to get your instant $60 off, free shipping, and a free 30-day membership. This offer is available to new Thrive Market customers only, and if you're unsure of the link, simply check out the show notes for today's episode to get all the details. I've put together a free 26-page recipe booklet on how to prepare carb-up meals because you guys keep telling me you need to know more about carb-ups, how to prepare them, and everyone is a little bit lost. So I put together all of my favorite carb-up meal recipes into one easy download PDF. It's free. You can grab it at healthfulpursuit.com/carbup. And if you're intrigued by carb ups, a practice that can help you balance hormones, bust your weight plateaus, and so much more, this free guide will show you which foods are safe for a carb up and how to prepare them really easily. You can get the free guide with over 50 recipes at healthfulpursuit.com/carbup, and I will include a link in today's show notes if you want to check it out. No announcements for today, so we're just going to cut over to today's episode. Our guest today is Craig Emmerich, who graduated in electrical engineering and has always had a systems approach to his work. He followed his wife, Maria, into the nutrition field and has since dedicated his time researching and looking at nutrition and biology from a systems perspective. Over the last 8 years, he has worked with hundreds of clients alongside Maria to help them heal their bodies and lose weight, leveraging their biology to make it easy. So if you guys are familiar with Maria Emmerich, this is Maria's husband that I'm going to be chatting with today. And he just came out with a book called Keto, and it released on January 8th. I'll include a link to Craig's book in the show notes today if you want to check it out. So today's episode is really focused on the common keto mistakes that people make over and over, and the things that both Craig and myself see on a daily basis of people just missing the mark just a little bit, to the point where perhaps they say the ketogenic diet isn't working, when in actuality it's just a matter of tweaking just like a couple of things and all of a sudden things come together. We're going to be chatting about the expectations versus benefits of keto to keep people engaged and to keep you wanting more out of your ketogenic diet, because it really can provide so much more. And usually it's just a tiny little tweak that can help you make the best of your ketogenic diet. So without further ado, let's cut over to this interview. The Keto Diet Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Keto Diet Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representations or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program. Hey, Craig, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm really, really good. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
For listeners that may not be familiar with your work, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I actually started out my career as an electrical engineer and did a lot of work there and moved into something called product management, where you have to have a real strong technical understanding, but then translate that into something that, the layperson can understand. And that became a good tool for me later in life as my wife, Maria, got into nutrition and ketogenic lifestyle about 12 years ago. And it just made sense. I was behind the scenes doing our websites and all this behind the scenes stuff. And it made sense for me to focus on that full time. And so I dove straight into keto myself and gobbled up every bit of science and information I could about this lifestyle.
That's so cool. I had no idea that you were a product manager. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was my former life. I spent about 18 years in engineering and product management.
That's too cool. My husband was in that too. And now he very much manages all the thing with health and he's getting into it too. So twins.
That's awesome.
And what have you experienced? Like what changes have you experienced over the years of eating keto before we kind of delve into the mistakes you see people making, either yourself or others?
Yeah. It's interesting. The journey we had, Maria started looking at this lifestyle because she was doing everything she was told, the standard American diet, the food pyramid, exercising like crazy, and she wasn't losing the extra weight, and she had PCOS and IBS and acid reflux, and she started looking for other answers herself, and then resulted in writing books, and she found her answers, and she started, living a ketogenic lifestyle, and she no longer had IBS, and all these issues went away, and she had all this energy. For me, it took a little longer. I used to brew beer and I was really into a lot of those kind of things. And for me, it was seeing her success that just made me want to feel that way, made me want to feel better and more energy. And so I just started adapting and changing my lifestyle as well.
That's amazing. And at what point, because Maria's always helping people and supporting people, I'm sure you guys have conversations a lot about things that you wish people would know that they continue to make mistakes of over and over, or things that you guys had to learn too of, oh my gosh, we're never doing that again. Are there some highlights from that?
Well, yeah, there's lots. There's a lot of pitfalls that you can make. For us, what we find, having done this for so long, we have, seen all the pitfalls and done them ourselves. And, there's, I think, a lot of components that can be done incorrectly. I think one of them is following what I'd call kind of a junk keto lifestyle. And that's where you're eating low carb, but you're eating a lot of processed foods and things still. And we find that, in order to really feel your best and heal, you need to have kind of that whole food kind of paleo approach to the ingredients, getting quality ingredients. I think that's a big one that people make a mistake with.
Yeah, I was having a conversation a couple of hours ago, the same one of like, what's the number one mistake? It's like food quality, like always food quality. If somebody says that the ketogenic diet isn't working for them, the first thing I ask is, what did you eat for breakfast this morning? Or what did you have for dinner last night? And it can give a really good sense of kind of that food quality. And what advice do you have for people that when they realize that they are making a mistake? So say somebody, with your example of food quality is like, oh shoot, maybe my quality isn't as good, are there certain tips and tools that you have for people to provide them with resources when they know that they need to increase the quality of their food?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it comes back to planning. If you plan, you will succeed. And so planning and prepping, I think, is real important. You tend to reach for those processed kind of junk keto foods when you run out of time or you didn't plan ahead. And so we always have our clients try to allocate some time. Maybe on a Sunday, they allocate a couple hours to prepping for the week. Another great example is embrace your slow cooker. Taking a shell of a slow cooker, filling it with all the ingredients for a recipe the night before, popping it in the fridge, that shell. And then in the morning, all you can do is throw it in the slow cooker, turn it on. And when you get home from work, there's a tasty meal ready for you. So those kind of prepping and planning can really help you succeed.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Even just, if you're a busy person and you don't have anything with you, all of a sudden you find yourself at a vending machine just trying to pick things together, and it's not the best option. So yeah, I think myself included, always having like even just a little thing in my car as like an emergency of like, I have an Epic bar or I have a grass-fed beef stick that I can chew on if things get crazy or I'm stuck in traffic, or you never know what will happen.
Yeah, being prepared is key.
And so we mentioned food quality. Do you see any other mistakes that people make on a ketogenic diet?
Yeah, some of it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is weight loss, then, there's definitely some mistakes that can be made that I commonly see out there. One of them, there's certain, as keto gets more and more popular, there's more and more voices coming in. And some of these voices don't necessarily have a real good science-based message. Some will say, you're not losing weight, add fat. Your hair is falling out, add fat. The answer to just about everything is to add more fat. And, if weight loss is the goal, that's not necessarily the direction you want to go, especially because, in the book, at chapter 8, we talk about nutrients in a keto lifestyle, and you get so much those micronutrients from animal proteins that when you are upping and adding extra fat, you're usually not getting enough protein, which is actually what can cause hair loss in a lot of cases. Plus, you're swapping out a very high in nutrient food, the animal protein, for something with very low nutrients in fat. So it's kind of looking for that balance and finding you got to get the right amount of protein each day to not only get your micronutrients, but also to support your lean mass.
How would you say that people are best off figuring out how much protein they should eat on a ketogenic diet? Because that's another one of those, moderate your protein, eat as low protein as you want. It doesn't matter how much protein you have. Kind of what's your stance on that?
Yeah, that's one that, we usually say about 0.8 times your lean body mass is a goal for grams of protein a day. So example, if you're 150 pounds and you're 33% body fat, that would put you at 100 pounds of lean mass. If you're, smaller, say a woman in that situation, 100 pounds of lean mass would mean times 0.8 would be 80 grams of protein. So we're not saying, super high protein here. This is moderate protein amounts. And the problem is if you go under what your body needs, over time, you're going to lose lean mass. And lean mass is so precious, especially as we age. You want to be strong and vital as you get older.
Mm-hmm. And for anyone that maybe doesn't know their fat percentage, or, there are a lot of people listening where, in order to know your fat percentage, you have to pay, and that can be costly. Are there other ways to determine how much protein you need that doesn't require like a test for your body?
Yeah, there's actually on our website, we have a keto calculator, and you can click on a link to see examples. They actually show photographs of people with different body types, men and women. And you can say, I pretty much look like this person. And then that gives you an estimate for your body fat percentage.
That is an awesome resource. Thanks for putting that together. That's great. I didn't know you had that. So awesome. And so there's a lot of talk about protein. Well, there's a lot of talk about protein in a bunch of different ways, but I want to hone in on the quality of the protein. There's good protein and not so good protein. What are your tips on finding the best protein to support your ketogenic diet?
Good, complete animal proteins are the best source, especially when you're talking about being that goal for your protein level for the day. The animal proteins are going to be the most complete and have all the amino acids needed for muscle repair and building new muscle. You can get actually some plant proteins like from grains that will never trigger muscle protein synthesis, no matter how much of it you get. And so the quality is very important. And so we focus, make that quality animal protein the focus of the plate. And then, you can have some low carb vegetables surrounding that, but focus on that protein, because not only is it needed for your lean mass, but it's loaded with nutrients, as we show in our book.
And I think you're a fan of ButcherBox just as much as I am, right?
Yes.
You guys love ButcherBox? Okay, cool. So I'll include a link to ButcherBox in the show notes because, yeah, they're amazing and it's so easy. And that can be a really good source of just quick meat where you don't have to constantly search for the grass-fed, grass-finished, all the check boxes. It just gets delivered to your house.
Exactly. And, Marie and I are kind of introverts, so we don't like having to go out and shop so much. So having it delivered to the door is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that one. More on my interview with Craig Emmerich after this message from one of our podcast partners. The show is partnered up with Paleo Valley, the makers of the only 100% grass-fed and finished fermented beef stick. Each stick contains 1 billion probiotic CFUs, and we all know how important fermented foods are to the health of our gut and the strength of our immune system, as well as boosting overall energy. Chowing down on Paleo Valley's fermented beef sticks provides your body with all of the beneficial bacteria it loves in one convenient little stick. Their gut-friendly sticks are gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, GMO-free, freaky chemical, additive dye, and preservative-free, as well as being 100% free from carbs and sugar, and made with the highest quality ingredients. Exclusive to listeners of the show, you can receive an instant savings of 20% off Paleo Valley fermented beef stick snacks by going to paleovalley.com/keto. And if your jaw is tired just thinking about beef jerky, I gotta tell you that these tasty treats are not tough at all, but moist with a little snap. Again, that's paleovalley.com/keto for an instant 20% off savings. And if you're unsure of the link, simply check out the show notes of today's episode to get all of the details. What are your thoughts? There's a lot of fear around protein on a ketogenic diet and the fear of gluconeogenesis, and it's going to cause you to get out of keto. I think we have the same approach to this, but I'd love to pick your brain and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So gluconeogenesis is the process of your body converting protein into glucose. But the thing is it's primarily a demand-driven process where it's going to start producing glucose if your glucose levels in your blood get too low. And if you look at a ketogenic lifestyle, gluconeogenesis is what primarily enables a ketogenic lifestyle to even exist, especially if you go to a kind of zero carb lifestyle, because there's certain parts of your body that still need glucose. There's parts of the brain neurons and heart that can only run on glucose. And it's like, I think 60 grams of glucose a day you need to run your body. Well, if you're not eating any in the diet, the body has to make it. Now, there's another source of glucose that comes into play, and that is from your stored body fat. Your body fat is stored as a triglyceride, which is a molecule of 3 free fatty acids linked together with a glucose or glycerol molecule. And when you use that for fuel, it comes out of the fat storage. The glycerol is separated off, and you have 3 free fatty acids and a glycerol. The 3 free fatty acids, this isn't commonly known in the keto world either, is that becomes a primary fuel source when you're keto, not the ketones. Free fatty acids can be burned directly in your muscle, in your tissue. So those are used as fuel. But that glycerol backbone goes to the liver, and 3 glycerols make a glucose molecule. So when you're burning just body fat for fuel, you're creating some glucose through the gluconeogenesis pathway to supply those body parts as well. So again, it's mostly demand driven. When it needs more, it makes more. But at very high levels of protein intake will drive it to convert some of it to glucose through gluconeogenesis, because you got very high levels of protein. But for most people, they're not going to have an issue with that, because for most people, that's like 200 grams of protein in one sitting before you really start to overdrive that system.
Thank you for explaining that so perfectly. I don't know if I've ever spoken with somebody that was able to explain that the way that you have. I might actually just keep that recording, and when somebody asks me, be like, listen to this. So thank you so much. That makes complete sense. And I hope that helps clear up the confusion, because there are a lot of people that say, oh my gosh, you went out 10 grams over your protein for the day. Gluconeogenesis. And so it's really great that you explained it the way that you did. Now, going a little bit deeper into the mistakes that people make on keto, one of them is testing their ketones. And there's a lot of misconception around ketone testing. So can we go through your approach to ketone testing and the outlines that you put in your book?
Yeah. So there's a few ways to do it. There's urine ketones, but those primarily show up when you first start going keto and you're not utilizing ketones very well. And so you actually will be excreting them through your urine more. But once you get deeper into ketosis, the urine ketones actually will go away for the most part, because your body's actually using the ketones now for fuel. Then there's blood ketones and breath ketones. Now, the one point I would make about it is that in general, there is no correlation of a higher ketone level to better results. That's a real key, I think, that you get some people that really chase ketone levels. Now, if your goal is weight loss, that's what I'm referring to. If the higher is not necessarily better. You could be 0.5 and be losing weight, great. You could be 2.0 and be losing weight, great. And you can be healing as well. There is therapeutic situations where higher ketones may be important, whether it's controlling seizures or some of these other issues that a high ketone level will help keep the seizures away. So then you might want to worry about your blood ketone levels and track them and make sure they stay elevated. But in general, for the average person, there is no correlation between blood ketone levels and better results. So, once you are keto and you know you're keto, there isn't really a huge need to track.
And how do we know if, you're saying that there's no need to track, there may not be a need to track if you don't need those therapeutic doses? Are there signs that point to whether or not we're on the mark with keto or not? I know that people like to kind of check in with themselves every week or 2 weeks, sometimes every day. If you are kind of obsessed with that process, are there things that people can watch for to tell them whether or not keto is working or not?
Well, we usually just have our clients go by their bodies. If they're feeling full all day, their cravings are gone, they have that mental clarity, you're running, you're in ketosis at that point. And, the absolute 100% way to know is track your macros and keep your carbs at, maybe 20, 30 grams or less a day, and you will be in ketosis. So, if you just track that, you're in ketosis at that point.
Another thing that people often, fumble on when they're first starting keto and getting used to this is, perhaps they eat keto for 3 weeks and then they go out for barbecue with their friends. And next thing they know, they've eaten all of these things that aren't keto and they're really frustrated with themselves. And they say, I'm not going to eat for 2 days, just get back into ketosis. What are your feelings when people, quote unquote, fall off the wagon? And what's your approach to getting people back in the groove? What's your thought on that?
I think what we do with our clients is we have them journal and write down how they feel. I mean, at the end of the day, most of our clients, they love this lifestyle because of the way they feel. The weight loss is kind of a bonus on top of that. And when that happens, if they quote unquote fall off the wagon, they feel terrible for a couple of days. And, we just tell them, journal that, remember how you felt. That's going to encourage you to not have it happen again, and focus on the foods that you can have, focus on the, bacon wrapped scallops and the, all the incredible food you are able to eat, and make that your focus. And as far as getting back to your second part of your question, fasting will get you back, but I think, but you'll also lose some lean mass when you do, a water only fast. I would prefer to just do maybe a protein sparing modified fast where you're little to no carbs, hitting your protein goal, and then maybe only 20, 30 grams of fat. And that's going to get you back quickly and preserve your lean mass.
I've never used that strategy before with a client. I'm excited to give that a whirl. Yeah, thank you. That totally makes logical sense.
It's great too, because protein sparing modified fast is protein, as you know, the thermic effect of food is very high. So you're basically 25% of those calories are going to be negated because it's protein and it takes that much energy to utilize it. So it's a great way to get you back while preserving that lean mass.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And what do you do? Like, I don't know how your guys' program works. I'm not sure if like other people see other people in the group or how that works, but I'm sure just on a grand scheme of things, when people, you know, are on Instagram and looking at other keto people being like, oh, why don't I have those results? Do you go through that stuff in your book of strategies of comparison or in your programs that you offer?
Yeah, we number one, you know, we've had a lot of clients over 12 years, and definitely you have people who have everybody's different in how they heal and how their results come. You know, we've had clients that it seems almost like certain parts of the metabolism and body need to heal first before they see the weight loss come off. And we had one client who started following it, doing everything exactly the way she should, no weight loss at all for 2 months. And she was feeling so good that she stuck with it. In month 3, she lost 20 pounds. It's like her body needed to heal first from some of the issues she was having before the weight would start coming off. And so it's more, we try to get their clients to focus on how they feel first and focus on that. And the weight will come if you stick with it.
Yeah, that's something I see in my practice all the time. And it really, that sticking with it piece can be easy if you kind of adjust your goals of like, I just want to feel good and I'm feeling good and my mind is lit up and my moods are better. I'm just going to stick with it and see where this takes me. And I think once you make that shift mentally, it's pretty powerful stuff. So that's great that you've seen that as well.
Yeah. And I think if to focus as it's not a quick fix, it's a lifestyle. You know, in the book, I talk about there's kind of 3 phases to this lifestyle. If you restrict carbs enough, in 2 to 3 days, you'll see elevated blood ketones, but you won't feel that real keto feeling yet. So it takes about 4 to 6, maybe 6 weeks where your body's actually making more mitochondria so that it can utilize that stored fat for fuel better. And that is when you start to feel full all day, cravings go away, your moods increase, you have better mental clarity. So that's kind of the second stage. And then there's another stage that if you stick with the lifestyle, you see more metabolic improvements and overall improvements going out 6, 12 months and longer. There's even a Volek and Finney study recently that showed that these athletes 1 year after going keto, we're still seeing some metabolic improvements in their performance. And so this is a lifestyle. This isn't a quick fix.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to delve a little bit deeper into your book. In your book, which launched, it's called Keto, and it launched January 8th. And it's jam-packed with content. I'm super impressed. That must have taken you forever to put together. I appreciate a well-written book. You chat a little bit about a lot about nutrient density of foods. And we chatted about the quality before, but I'd love to hone in on why people should focus on that nutrient density and the overall system that's supported by doing that.
Yeah, you know, your body needs a lot of micronutrients to feed all the biological pathways that are needed to run our bodies. And a big problem with the standard American diet is when you get these processed foods, they're devoid of these micronutrients that your body needs to heal, to function properly. And so focusing on very nutrient-dense foods is a very important part of healing as well. And one of the things that as I was researching and writing this chapter, that just kind of blew my mind is that, you know, if you talk to the average person and you put a plate in front of them and it's got a steak on it, and then a bunch of kale and blueberries and vegetables, and you say, where are all the vitamins and minerals coming from? They're going to point to the veggies and the fruit. And yet, if you look at just beef, it is very high in micronutrients and vitamins, minerals across the board. And I have a lot of charts in this chapter that show how it stacks up even better against kale, against blueberries, against all these things that we consider superfoods. beef is better across the board on nutrients. And this is something I think our society kind of lost track of, I think because of some of the flawed, China study and some of these flawed information that came out pointing to beef being a bad guy. So I really wanted to put a light on it that you are getting a lot of micronutrients when you eat animal proteins.
Yes. I've seen that for myself as well when I switched from being vegan for 8 years to going to a ketogenic diet, just the vast difference in the amount of nutrients. Also that you're able to assimilate, I think too. I think a lot of our bodies aren't meant to eat as many vegetables as I was eating as a vegan. And I could tell I was constantly constipated. There were a lot of issues, health issues that I was dealing with, I think because of the nutrient choices that I was making.
Yeah, and I have a section in there on that showing the human cecum. And I think that is a real indicator of evolutionary choice that was made, where we swapped a big gut for a big brain. And you look at other animals like koala bears or true herbivores, they've got this huge cecum that the cecum is basically this huge pouch that holds vegetable matter to ferment it, to fully break it down into fatty acids and things that can be used. Well, the human cecum is basically this tiny little pouch at the bottom of the colon. And so it can't really hold much of anything for very long. So if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, we swapped higher nutrient dense foods like animal proteins for the primary fuel in order to fuel this big hog of a brain we have for energy.
That's really interesting. Yeah, 100%. That makes sense. I didn't know that koalas had that. That's really cool.
There's a photo in there of it. It's like this big swirly pouch that holds all the plant matter.
Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, I have to check that out. So if somebody is interested to use keto for healing, in the book, you have a disease tree, and I'd love to chat about what that disease tree is and how people can use it to heal their body with a ketogenic diet.
Yeah, as an engineer, I like to look at things from a systems perspective. If I was working on some electronics in my former life, if one of the outputs of one of my devices wasn't working properly, I'm going to go back and look at the inputs and see which one of those was messed up that gave me the bad output. And I think in nutrition and health, we just have lost that kind of focus. Today in healthcare, they just put a Band-Aid on the output to try to cover up the symptoms with a prescription drug or something like that. And if we really want to heal, we got to go back to those root causes. And the root causes of so many diseases are inflammation, which a ketogenic lifestyle is a well-formulated one is going to help you a lot, lowering inflammation, getting those sugars out, getting those omega-6, vegetable and seed oils out of your diet that can be oxidized and cause inflammation. So that's a big component. But there's so many other little things like getting enough sleep and getting some common sense vitamin D exposure from the sun. 20, 30 minutes of vitamin D every day gives you a big dose of vitamin D, which is so important for health, as well as producing cholesterol sulfates in the skin that also have big health benefits. And just looking at all those root causes, reversing those so that then those outputs, the disease, go away.
Yeah, reverse engineering. I love that. And in your book, and very much in line with the disease tree, you chat a lot about the science behind keto. Why do you feel, and I know I definitely see this as well, why do you feel that it's important to share scientific information with people? And how do you see that helps with their process of adapting to a ketogenic lifestyle?
I think it's important for two reasons. Number one, to keep a science-based approach so that we don't veer off into areas that, again, as I said, keto's becoming more popular. You get some voices coming in that give bad advice that aren't going to help anybody. And in fact, we get a lot of clients that come to us saying, I'm just gaining weight, I don't feel good. And once we fix that, you can reverse it. But it's coming back to the science of our biology and how our bodies work, and then leveraging that in order to help heal and help reach your goals. Oxidative priority, the order in which our body processes fuels that come into our body. If you understand that, a ketogenic lifestyle, you keep the alcohol out, if you just get enough protein to meet your body's needs, keep the carbs way low, then it's just down to the fat. that's the last oxidative priority. And if you're a fat burner, that's all you're mainly using for fuel is fat all the time. And so you use that kind of as a lever of, more fat and you'll be in maintenance, less you'll lose some body fat, use more stored body fat for fuel. That is how you leverage that science to reach your goals. And keto is so powerful in doing that because you control your hormones and enable you to do that.
More on my interview with Craig Emmerich after this message from one of our podcast partners. By now, you probably know that bone broth is a mega superfood in the keto and paleo communities. Everyone is making it and cashing in on the benefits that collagen and gelatin provide. The reduction in inflammation, better digestion, improved immunity, reduction in wrinkles, beautiful skin quality, etc. But making bone broth takes time. Kettle and Fire make bone broth that's non-perishable so that it can be shipped all over the US without refrigeration, which makes shipping less expensive, and you don't have to spend 20 plus hours that are required to make really good homemade bone broth. Listeners of the podcast receive 20% off Kettle and Fire chicken bone broth when you go to kettleandfire.com/keto podcast to place your order. Unsure of the link? Simply check it out in the show notes of today's episode to get all the details. I think overall, talking about the nutrient density, disease tree, the science behind keto, your book really has many of the facets that somebody needs in order to facilitate like a balanced keto approach. Do you have any other book recommendations for our listeners today? The ones that you love?
There's a lot of keto books coming out.
I know.
I've always been the science geek, so I like the Volek and Finney books are always great. They've been doing this since the 70s before anybody else was thinking about keto. And they've been doing tons of studies. And even some of their more recent papers and studies they've been putting out have been really great on keto. There's some of the ones that are scientists that are really doing keto right. Like if you look at a lot of these studies, they call something keto or low carb and they're getting, 150 grams of carbs in their diet, and they're calling that low carb or keto, and they're not going to be in the ketogenic state. So Volek and Finney, they do it right.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think I've read almost all of their books, and they're really well written and easy to follow too, which I think is important for a lot of people if they don't have that background. So that's awesome. Where can people find your book?
On Amazon, and it should be in most of the Barnes and Nobles, and hoping for Costco. We haven't heard for sure yet, but definitely on Amazon.
Okay, I'm crossing my fingers for you in Costco because that's a total win. And where can people find more from you if they want to, we chatted about your book. Where can they go online? Yeah,
we have a blog with tons of free information and recipes. And we're starting a video series this year. We're going to be doing a whole series of videos with lots of great free information. That's at mariamindbodyhealth.com. We also have a support site called keto-adapted.com where you can get a subscription and even attend weekly webinars with Maria and I. And then, of course, on social media under Craig Emmerich or Maria Emmerich.
That's great. I will include all the links in the show notes today, which everyone can find at healthfulpursuit.com/podcast/E69. And thanks so much for coming on the show today, Craig. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Leanne.
And that does it for another episode of the Keto Diet Podcast. Thanks for listening in. You can follow me on Instagram by searching Healthful Pursuit, where you'll find daily keto eats and other fun things. And check out all of my keto supportive programs, bundles, guides, and other cool things over at healthfulpursuit.com/shop. And I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.